Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Shift. I'm Gavin Waples, and you are part of The Shift. Jumping right into it today, I have a topic that I've been thinking about for a while. We have grown up in a culture that has never had to experience any major, terrible experience.
Makes me a bit anxious, yeah. But only about a fifth is when I can't find my phone.
And we've never been directly affected by any major war or economic struggle or really anything that was catastrophically bad. I mean, we've grown up in America very isolated from the terrible things in the world. And that's kind of allowed our culture to degenerate into this victimhood, no fault, everybody's a victim of circumstance mentality.
I'm a victim of circumstance.
I mean, you see kids at the grocery store absolutely freaking out for no reason other than they didn't get what they wanted, and they think that they can. Or nowadays, you can see a lot of teenagers, especially Gen Z teenagers in like these bigger cities, having absolutely no respect for cops or authority whatsoever, and just mouthing off or sometimes actually assaulting people because they think they can get away with it.
This is a public space, and I know my rights.
And really, I think where a lot of that stems from is the fact that our generation was taught that nothing is our fault. We're all just victims of the bad things that happened before our lifetime or what happened to us directly, which, leads us to blame society or our parents or people around us or whoever it is.
I blame everyone for my circumstances.
But all of this stems from a victim mentality that our choices aren't our fault. Everything that we do is because of something we were raised with or something that we grew up around or something that we were born with or can't control. All of that fails to take into account human significance. It makes us small. We've been taught our whole lives that we are of no major importance at all. That we are one speck among billions of stars.
You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
Or the fact that the internet is so big that one person's post might reach only 30 people. What you hear a lot is that your vote doesn't matter, right? Because it's one out of millions. And it's all things that just make us feel like we're one tiny little fish in this big ocean. Like nothing we do has any real impact or significance. But that's not true, obviously. And again, I think that's where this victim mentality stems from, is this thought pattern that everything we do is of minor or no importance. Think about the fact that at the beginning of time, God created us in his likeness. We were created to be creative, thinking, speaking spirits, things that had rule over the natural world around us. And to think that we've suppressed that into a place of one person's voice has no significance. I mean, think about people like George Washington, Thomas Edison, Martin Luther King, Donald Trump. Nowadays, you see Mr. Beast, Dude Perfect on YouTube, other influencers like that. They're all just people, but they have had a tremendous impact on our culture. The only difference between them and us, probably, I would say, the amount of people that see what they do or see what the choices that they make. One person's choice now affects multiple people's choices. That's what an influencer is. I mean, an influencer is just someone whose choice is influencing someone else's choice. Think about how many people that probably wear something because they saw someone else promoting it or wearing it, or the way they talk is different, or what they do is different because they saw someone online doing it or saw one of their friends doing it or something. That's the result of influencers. The only way we measure impact of a decision is how many other people's decisions it impacts. Really, every person's choice is significant. And really, this is going to sound cliche, but we are all influencers.
We are influencers.
If you have any siblings whatsoever, whether you think that way or not, older or younger, you're influencing them. If you're a parent, you're an influence. If you have friends, you're an influence. Even if you feel like you're the younger sibling or you're the friend that nobody really pays attention to, your decisions will impact the people around you, either positively or negatively. They'll see what you do and they will make decisions based on that one way or another. We often see the top-down influence of that, where if the one older sibling likes cotton candy ice cream, then maybe the younger siblings will try it and then decide that they like it. That's one minor way. But in other ways too, it can be the reverse. Like, for instance, say in a friend group, right? There's the one friend that's really nice to everybody else, and the rest of them are kind of cliquey in their own kind of group kind of thing. They may feel guilty because the one person is friends with that person, and maybe they choose to cut that person off, or maybe they just scoff, or maybe they get guilty and then they change. All of that is influence. That's one person's decision affecting other people's decisions. And really, our lives are filled with those kinds of moments. And that is important. That's consequences of our actions in good ways and bad. I think this is even where people can struggle with God sometimes, is they see bad things that happen in the world, and they see Christians that make bad decisions, and they attribute that all to God, and they all say Christianity is just this, or God must be evil because why would bad things happen if not? But they really, all of that just ignores the human side of the equation. That seems to be one of the more impactful parts of the decision, because there's so many of us. Every decision we make impacts somebody else. Bad things happen, yes, but they're the results of people making bad decisions, whether directly or by a snowball effect. That's why it's so important for us as Christians to behave the way that God wants us to behave, and not just act on whatever impulses we have of the day, because people are watching us, or at least if they're not watching us, they see us. Someone may only see you one time and decide, yeah, I don't want to be anything like what they are. Or maybe they were watching you for a long time and they decide one way or another what they think of you, or what they think of who you represent. That's who we are as Christians. We're representatives of God, and the way we carry ourselves and the way we interact with people on a daily basis will impact the way people think about us and the way that they think about God. And that's why I can't stand this mentality that's being taught, because people are the most important thing ever. It was the culmination of God's creation was man. And we're supposed to believe that any one of us isn't significant. Any one of us wasn't important enough for Jesus to die on the cross, when he would have done it for one of us. He would have gone through that whole pain and suffering for one person. That's how much love he had for us. And we're supposed to believe that life isn't important. I can't believe that. I can't get behind it. And that's why abortion is so sad, because a life is gone. And not just a life, which alone is super impactful, but a life that could have been influential to who knows how many people. A life that could have been a testimony to God's glory, a life that could have led people back to a brighter pathway. I saw this video on Instagram. It was a guy that would have been aborted by his mom, but it was a failed abortion, and then she decided to keep the baby and just put him up for adoption. He was speaking at this rally because he found God out of this. He was just so grateful for God, and he's now a voice for however many people he is able to come in contact with that will now see God because his abortion failed. But think of how many people didn't have that chance. And for us to think that our lives are of no importance or no value, it's just completely wrong. We need to start shifting our focus and realizing the importance of our lives, but in the importance of other people's lives as well. Because when you see the value that God has put in every individual, the reason he created us in our likeness, the reason he died for us, the reason we have free will is because of how much he loves us. And if we can see that, if we can see that part of a person, you'll love them more than ever. And you'll realize the importance of that person. And if you see that in yourself, you'll realize just how important your life really is. Think about it. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the thoughts and plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to give you a hope and a future." You have a call on your life, and you have gifts that are equipping you for that call. And when you take time to develop them, and you take time to realize that God put things in you for a reason, things that will impact people now and in the future, you'll realize your life is more than just a speck. And you're more than just one out of 100 billion people that have existed.
Do you know, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important before.
You are a person that God divinely appointed for a time and a purpose. Maybe you're not Queen Esther, maybe you're not Mr. Beast, or maybe you're not Thomas Edison. Maybe you don't go on to invent the next light bulb or the cure to cancer, but maybe you lead your friend to the Lord. You start someone on a path to Jesus that they never would have found without your help. You may not realize it, but you could be the one thing that makes someone decide God is what they need. That's not a life of no significance. That's more significance than anyone's life could ever hope for. And just to finish things off here, remind yourself that you may be the only Bible that someone ever reads. So make sure it's a good read.